Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner. Today I'm giving you guys a profile of my Howlnado deck version 5, i.e. my Dragunities, and bonus points to anyone who gets the reference. So, these guys are starting to see more play as a popular rogue deck, thanks to the fact that it can not only synchro spam, but it can exceed spam. And it does the two very well, and while I won't exactly say it's a tier 1 deck much like Rabbit, Chaos Dragon, and Inzectors, it's quite capable of stealing wins against those decks if you know what you're doing, and much like Gravekeepers, Malefics, and Frog Monarchs, if you're not prepared for this matchup, it will kick your ass and you won't know what hit you. So first I will go over the deck list, and then I'll explain tricks and combos. First, we got 3 Dragunity decks, 2 Dragunity Legionnaire, 2 Dragunity Armor Mistleton, 3 Dragunity Phalanx, 1 Dragunity Atlas, 1 Blackwing Zephyros Elite, triple Effect Veiler, double Red-Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, 3 Dragon Ravine, 3 Terraforming, 2 Cards of Consonance, 2 Mystical Space Typhoon, 1 Book of Moon, 1 Dark Hole, 1 Heavy Storm, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Pot of Avarice, 2 Compulsory Evacuation Device, 2 Fiendish Chain, 2 Solemn Warning, and 1 Solemn Judgment. For the extra deck monsters, I am running 3 Dragunity Knight Vajrayana, 1 Dragunity Knight Gaedurg, 1 Trident Dragon, 1 Scrap Dragon, 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Brionac Dragon of the Ice Barrier, 1 Ally Justice Catastor, 2 Heretic Dragon King of a Tomb, 2 Gaia Dragon of Thunder Charger, 1 Photon Strike Bouncer, and 1 number 39 Utopia. So the deck plays differently from before in that you don't want to really go for just the turn 1 Stardust. Now you can not only make that Stardust, but you can make it with a Heretic Dragon King of a Tomb and a Red-Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon out on the field, and that's because this deck can hit rank 6s very, very easily. Dux can make a level 6 synchro monster, we all know that, but if you supplement that Dux with a Zephyros, that 1 level 6 becomes 2 level 6s, and those 2 level 6s become a Tomb, which gets you Darkness Metal, which then revives a level 6, and it goes from that. A lot of your ridiculous plays come off of Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. If you pitch this for Ravine to get a Phalanx, and then bounce the Ravine back to your hand, and then play Ravine again, and pitch the Phalanx to get a Dux, barring a Veiler from your opponent, you've got a ridiculous play coming up, because you can then synchro the Phalanx and the Dux together to make a Vajrayana, you then special the Phalanx, make another Vajrayana, special the Phalanx, overlay the 2 Vajrayana, get a Tomb, who then gets Darkness Metal Dragon out, who then special summons the Vajrayana, and then you synchro with that Vajrayana and that Phalanx to make a Stardust Dragon, and you've got your 3 monsters, and you've got potential back row protection, i.e. Compulse, Chain, and the Solemn Brigade. Now you may have noticed I'm not running Torrential Tribute or Bottom's Trap Hole in this deck, and that's because I just wanted something much more reactive, and that would be Compulsory Evacuation Device. It gets rid of most synchros and exceeds monsters. It's a chainable right on the summon, so I don't have to wait for my opponent to summon something with a big attack, which is really good because there are those times where I don't have the Veiler and my opponent summons Dragonfly, and I can just compulse it back to the hand and just try and push their shit in the next turn, or make that Stardust or that Strike Bouncer and just sit on them. Fiendish Chain I'd like in here also, as you can bounce it with Zephyros or pop it with Scrap Dragon if it no longer has a target, and you can just use it in other creative ways. No TT as mentioned before, because I'm always going to have a monster on the field. Very rarely am I going to have something on the field I want to nuke with TT, so that's not in this deck. Foolish Burial. This is basically another Zephyros because 1, I only own 1 of this, and 2, additional copies you draw are dead the moment you use his effect, so I'd rather have Foolish Burial to send this to the graveyard, or send this or this to the graveyard. It's just a bit more alive in that sense. And yes, any dead cards you draw can be pitched with Ravine, but I've said it before when I was talking about super polymerization. You should not be running cards in these type of decks just because if they're dead, you can discard them. You should be running as many cards that are useful the moment you draw them, and not having to wait for X thing to happen, because you're not always going to have that Dragon Ravine when you top deck that Zephyros. It's just going to sit in your hand and be like, oh god, why? So you shouldn't be running cards in this deck that only have one purpose, and you can just pitch them from Ravine afterwards. They should be usable even without having to pitch them from Ravine. Now, the interesting card in here, you may have noticed, is Dragunity Armamisleton, especially since 2 years ago? Yeah, maybe then, or back in 2011. Anyway, when I first saw this card, I said it was garbage. And back then it was garbage, but now, because of its ability to let you hit rank 6s easier, he's not that bad. I mean, he allows the deck to play around Effect Veiler in the sense that if they Veiler your decks, you can send it to the graveyard, special the Phalanx from there, and just make a Stardust, and then on the next turn do stuff. Or you don't hit a Veiler at all, so this is out, you send this to special this, you special this, and it just kind of snowballs from there. You may have noticed a much lesser amount of Legionnaire and Atlas. It's because you just don't go for the play as often as you used to. They're there because when you do go off and you need them, it's nice to have, but you can still win the game without them. And apparently, if you do the Atlas Legionnaire play against the Pulsar Dragon and pop their back row, it'll miss timing, or like if you do that against Shining or like Pulsar Dragon, they'll miss timing because the last thing to occur on the chain was this guy instead of them hitting the graveyard. I'm not quite certain about this. I honestly thought it was simultaneous effects go on chain, but hey, if that's the case, then awesome. This deck just got a better matchup against Chaos Dragons because you side in Quackmere Drago and Imperial Iron Wall, and they cry for that because you can just space their Royal Decrees, and that's about it. Dragunity Derg. This is a very important card to hit into because if you don't have that early Zephyros, then you're going to want to make this so you can get that Zephyros to the grave, and then on your next turn, do your crazy shenanigans of Multivadrianas and whatnot. And as far as Darkness Metal Dragon goes, I really like having him in 2 in here because at 1, I draw it. Simply put is that every time I run just one event, I always open with it. And I just like having that second copy in the deck to special summon with a tomb. Additionally, you can also bounce it from your field to your hand through Zephyros and just banish a card on the field to special summon him at full strength, and holy crap, you can OTK now. Avarice is amazing, we all know that in here. And Cards of Constance is just for when you want to get sacky, pitch a Phalanx, and then draw into Ravine plus Zephyros, and just nut on your opponent from there. And then for the extra deck, yeah, the rest of the extra deck is pretty straightforward. Only one Stardust because this is all I could fit in here. I would love to put another Stardust or even a Thought Ruler in, but I just wouldn't know what to cut for it. Maybe a Thunder Charger, not too certain. The Utopia is just basically there for when you summon a Dux and it gets Veiler and you already have your Zephyros on the field. You might as well just stack them up, summon this guy, and just stop some attacks. You could run either this or Maestro the Symphony Din. It just depends on player preference. I like Utopia for his bigger body, but Maestroke does have that rather nice defensive ability. And I think that's really all I need to go over. I mean, I have not really explained all the loops. I apologize for that, but I just do not have the time to do an in-depth loop segment on this, especially when Phoenix Flare X has already done that job and then some with his Dragunity's Reborn segment. If you have not checked that guy out or even subbed to him, I highly suggest you do so, as he is arguably the best guy out there when it comes to his Dragunity know-how. So I would definitely sub to that guy for his Dragunity segments and just learning how to do all the crazy loops, because if you know what you're doing with this deck, it's amazing. And that's pretty much all I gotta say. And as you can tell, I got Heretic stuff, so I do want to start working on those guys. I gotta take this deck apart because it's running cards I need for my Heretics, so I don't know when I'll get Heretic content to you guys, but rest assured I will get it to you as soon as I can. I just gotta start playtesting with some builds. So I hope you liked this redone Dragunity deck. I might kind of play with this on and off for the rest of the format. It's really fun to bring out against people who just don't know what this deck is, because Synchro Summons, what the hell are those? Thank you all for watching. Until the next time, take care.